a Chinook helicopter had flown in a day. We went up there to actually see it, and I think my grandmother had got to talking to the gentleman, the pilot. And before he realized who she was and what had happened, he started talking that he was on a mission the night of December 29th in that vicinity.
According to Colby, the pilot said his unit was based at Ellington Air Force Base.
After my grandmother had confronted him about being out on whatever mission they was on, he kind of clammed up and wouldn't say anything.
Military secrecy continues to surround the case, but due to the press received at the time, or another unknown reason, the Army launches a major investigation into the Cash Landrum incident. The report on the topic is classified. The author of the report is Lieutenant Colonel George Saran. His investigation has called much of Colby's story into question. For the first time, he is speaking out about the case and has come face to face with Colby Landrum.
The only organization that had that many helicopters was the United States Army. 23 helicopters would be a real logistical operation. Being so close to a major international airport, the air traffic control people would definitely have, it would have been cleared through them.
Did you ask them if they had any record of a flight of 23, give or take a couple helicopters, and the answer was?
But the investigation receives a piece of evidence that distinctly contradicts the Lieutenant Colonel's claim by George Saran himself, released through a Freedom of Information Act request. The note states that 100 helicopters landed at Robert Gray Airfield at nearby Fort Hood that same evening.
I have no idea why I might have wrote that down. In those days, it was kind of a closed down place that was just used on the weekends by the reserves and the National Guard. There would have never been anything like that.
Famous last words.
I don't have an answer for that.
But what about the helicopter pilot Colby and Vicky spoke to, who claimed that he was on patrol in the area that night? Lieutenant Colonel Saran's report details the encounter. Quote, Ms. Landrum heard him to say that he was flying the evening of the incident. When pressed for more details, the pilot responded that he was prohibited from adding more information because of national security.
I guess my question is, why come out and actually tell us that he was dispatched to that area, and then after he found out that we were actually the victims that had the encounter out there, retract his statement? I just find that very hard to believe.
I don't have an answer for that.
Something definitely happened here in Huffman, Texas on December 29, 1980. Whether it was above your command, below it, something definitely happened. And I'm not trying to be hard towards you, but you're the only one that I've ever had a chance to talk to involving our government. Or has your commanding officers ever come up to you and say, okay, that's enough, that's all we can do on this?
Absolutely not. Never was I told that this is hush-hush, off limits, and play this way or that way, or don't play it at all.
With no concrete answers for the ship or military helicopters in the air that night, Saran is sure of one thing.
Obviously something had happened to them. You don't get those kind of burns and the kind of problems medically without something happening. I could not substantiate that the Army or any of his assets were involved.
Colonel Saran said definitively that the Army had no reports of helicopters taking off from any of its bases. We're now homing in on the possibilities. Could have been black operation, the Army didn't even know about it. We still have to establish culpability for who was controlling that craft.